Everybody, Bill from MOTOTIPZ here. Just picked up this 2021 KTM 690 SMCR Supermoto. Gonna be going on the first ride and just go over the things I do to set up the motorcycle and get used to it for the first time. This is the 2021 KTM 690 SMCR. So it's a supermoto bike. It's 692 cc's. I believe it has 74 horsepower. Comes with a 6-speed transmission, quick shifter up and down with a slipper clutch. This one has the Wings exhaust already installed on it. Comes with Bridgestone Battle Axe Hypersport S21Rs on 17-inch rims. Previous owner did put some crash protection on there. Plan on doing quite a few upgrades to the bike. It's going to be a project bike, so I'll be making a bunch of videos, have tons of plans for it. So a few engine upgrades, some lighting upgrades, get a tail tidy. I'm going to be doing a complete custom graphics kit on the motorcycle, get some MOTOTIPZ logos on there, and that's going to be coming from TBMX. I'll do a whole video on that, installing graphics and going over what I'm doing. So awesome bike. Just got into Supermoto. Love riding that style. It's great. If you guys haven't done Supermoto, go take a class somewhere. So much fun, and you'll probably end up buying a Supermoto. It's that fun. So to get used to the motorcycle, first thing I recommend is going to a parking lot, doing a few slow speed skills, making sure everything is functioning on the bike. The brakes work well. It shifts up and down. There's no mechanical issues, and just getting comfortable on the bike for the first time, so that when you hit the streets, you're ready to go. You know everything works. You know how to control the motorcycle. So I'm going to ride around the parking lot a little bit, and then we'll go on a ride. So before you go on a ride, make sure your mirrors are set up, your clutch and your brakes work, the rear brakes work. So first thing I'm going to do is just a little lap to make sure everything's functioning here. So as I ride here, check the steering out a little bit, make sure, get used to the friction zone, find that friction zone, make sure my brakes work. So check the front brake, check the rear brake. Oh yeah, stoppies right away. Brakes on this thing are pretty good. So it does have a single rotor Brembo brake up front, but has quite a bit of stopping power. It's a pretty light bike. I think it's like right over 300 pounds. Yeah. Rear brake works. I'm just gonna slow speed stuff, U-turn. Just take my time with the slow speed stuff, the U-turns and stuff, to try and get comfortable on this motorcycle. Some figure eights here. It's a very maneuverable bike, very lightweight. Alright, we're going to head out on the street for the first ride here. So I'm at the stoplight here. First thing I notice, I'm 5'9" with just over a 30-inch inseam. To touch the ground, I have to be kind of on my tiptoes with both feet. But no big deal. That's similar to the BMW. If you're coming from an adventure bike or a dirt bike, It's going to be about the same height. It's going to be a little taller than a typical street bike. But it's fairly light, so it's no issue leaning the motorcycle over a little bit at a light to put your foot down. Just be aware that it is a taller motorcycle. Alright, looking at the dash here, it's a very simple display. I have my miles per hour and a trip meter distance. That's pretty much it. You have the ABS light, oil pressure light, your neutral, and then your turn signal indicator. As far as controls here, high beam, low beam, turn signals, horn. I have my electronics control here, so it has two maps. Map 1 is for just normal street riding, and then you have map 2, which is the Supermoto mode. And then a traction control button on top. As far as the differences in the maps, so map 2 is going to give you better throttle response and more direct throttle. It is throttle by wire, so there's no throttle cable. So map 1 street riding, less responsive throttle. Map 2 more responsive throttle, less wheelie prevention. So in map 1, I believe you can get the tire up a little bit, but then the wheelie control is going to kick in and bring that front tire down. In map 2, you should be able to do pretty much a full wheelie. The other thing it does is it changes your traction control and ABS. So in map 2, it's Supermoto, so I think it cuts the ABS off to the rear tire there. So you can back it in, skid the rear tire, Supermoto style. So it is clutchless up and down, 6 speeds. I have to say the quick shifter is really smooth. It's probably more smooth than the one on my BMW. Let's hit a few. This thing flies. So very good acceleration, quick through the gears. Definitely a very quick motorcycle off the line. It's probably one of the quickest things out there, just off the line up to maybe say 60 miles per hour. So back to the quick shifter. It's pretty smooth up and down. If you're lugging along like this is probably a time I'd use the clutch to shift. But if you're at full acceleration or decelerating pretty hard, that's when the quick shifter works really well. Kind of lugging along, you might get a little clunk. So the only two things setup wise I did before riding is I set the suspension to sport mode. So in front it has adjustable suspension, so you have your compression and rebound that you can set. In the rear it has low speed and high speed dampening, and then you can set the preload. So I'm planning to go up to my buddy Mike's. He has a page, Motor Mecca. Really good mechanic. If you need any work done, take your motorcycle up to him. So I'm gonna go up there, have the on Wednesday, have the motorcycle looked over, have him check the suspension, see if we need to adjust the preload on the rear spring. But yeah, everything's fully adjustable. So right now it is set up in sport mode, so it's a little stiffer. May not be the greatest if you're just someone who's not going to be too aggressive on the street. You can set it to a softer street mode. So why did I buy this motorcycle? Well, I have a BMW 1250 GSA, and I love the motorcycle. It does everything really great, but it's a big motorcycle. And I recently went to SoCal Supermoto and did their training on the Suzuki DRZ 400s, and it's so much fun. It kind of got me addicted to riding Supermoto. Really wanted one. I was looking at the DRZs, but it maxes out like at 70. It's just not a bike that's great on the freeway. This motorcycle definitely can cruise easily at 80 on the freeway. So I wouldn't recommend it for long trips on the freeway, but short burst or a little bit of commuting, it's great. As long as you don't mind, there's no wind protection. And I've owned naked bikes before, so I owned a Yamaha MT-07, and you know, the difference is you get a little wind on you, and as long as you don't mind that, recognize that, you know, it's going to be beating you up a little bit, it's all good. So I got this motorcycle to do some Supermoto stuff, some canyons, some different style riding, just something smaller to have some fun on. This thing, just for its weight, has a ton of power. It pulls really hard. So it has a good grunt down low, and then even as you rev it up, it just keeps pulling. So just riding this motorcycle on the city streets here, this is actually a really comfortable, easy riding motorcycle. If you're commuting in the city, it actually be lots of fun. Brakes are really good and stop really well. You do have some brake dive, but this has a lot of suspension travel up front, so that's to be expected. Definitely a different experience than the BMWs with the telelever suspension up front, because those things really they don't dive at all on the brakes. It kind of just like flattens a little bit, but you don't get the dive down in the front. Riding this motorcycle around, one thing I notice is that because there's not a bunch of displays and controls up here, it's very simplified. So you're not paying attention to a GPS and a big screen and all this stuff. It's kind of cool because there's no distractions. It's just you and the road. You can pay attention to what you're doing, and it's kind of a fun experience just to have a simple motorcycle that you're looking where you're going, you're using the throttle and brakes, and yeah, not a lot of distractions, just a lot of fun. one thing I'm noticing, these mirrors are not great. I tried adjusting them a couple times and just cannot get them in a good position, so they'll definitely be getting replaced with something that works a little better. Alright, so let's try changing mapping over to 2 here. Definitely notice in mapping mode 2 saying wants to lift the front tire off the ground in 2nd and 3rd gear, so it pulls like crazy. Once you get to the middle of the rev range, it just wants to go. Cornering on this thing, it feels very planted, very solid. Once you go to tip in, it stays on its path. It's not diverting and going anywhere crazy. So very fun, easy riding motorcycle. Not really pushing it at this point, just getting used to it on the first ride. But man, this thing is so much fun. So as far as the riding position, it's upright. I do feel like there's plenty of room for my legs. The pegs aren't too high. It's pretty comfortable, so my knees aren't overly bent. Like the positions of the bars. I'm used to riding more of an upright style, so it definitely works for me. If you're coming from a sport bike, it might be something you have to get used to. All the controls feel to be in a good position. Both the levers are fully adjustable, so don't need to do anything there as far as changing them out. I would like to have a gear shift indicator. It's not really necessary, but it's something nice to have, and if you're coming from a motorcycle with it, that's probably when you're going to notice the most that it doesn't have one. There's no fuel gauge on here either, so you kind of have to use your trip meter to remind you when to fill up. This motorcycle does have the wings exhaust installed. I believe it has the more quiet decibel killer in the back. It actually sounds really good without being overly loud. Some of the exhausts, they drone and they're just too loud, and you have no choice but to wear earplugs. With this exhaust, it's definitely not overly loud, and it has a good tone to it. If I were doing a bunch of freeway riding, I would definitely wear earplugs though, because there's no wind protection. So, but if I'm cruising around the streets going a little slower, don't necessarily wear earplugs. Personal choice. See that car? It was all the way in my lane. That's why you gotta be watching what you're doing and paying attention. If necessary, brake in a turn so you can change your position. As far as the seat goes on this, it's a little hard, but it's still comfortable. I don't really mind it. Comfortable enough for me. Some people say the seats on these are a little hard. I guess if you're coming from a sport bike or adventure bike, yeah, it's not the super comfortable, but it's easy to move around on. It has enough grip that you don't slide around too easy. For me, I always recommend like taking a break every 45 minutes or an hour, so you're not, not wearing your body down. You're staying sharp mentally and focused. Anything more than 45 minutes or an hour, you start getting fatigued, and that's when mistakes can happen. So tires feel pretty good. They're nice and grippy. Suspension feels good. It's fairly stiff. You get some movement, but it has a lot of travel, so that's fine. But it's not overly either bouncy or soft. So this compared to the DRZ 400. First off, way more power. The definitely better brakes on here. The riding position, and that's the same. The dash that isn't overly complicated on either bike. This bike has a full set of electronics, so it does have ABS, cornering, ABS, traction control, different mapping modes. You can turn off the ABS. So full set of electronics, much better suspension here, fully adjustable, WP suspension front and rear. So what are my thoughts on this motorcycle? First off, it's an easy motorcycle to ride. That being said, I really want to recommend this for a beginner. just has too much power, too much acceleration. You're gonna get yourself in trouble because the bike's gonna outperform you. So if you're a beginner rider, I would probably hold off on getting this motorcycle or the Husqvarna 701. You may want to start with a DRZ 400 or a small displacement motorcycle. Extremely good brakes and suspension. Tons of power, torque in all the areas. You can either kind of lug it around and stay in the low range, but if you do get in the higher range, it keeps pulling. The power band on this is pretty insane. There's a ton of power from down low to up high. Very fun motorcycle. It's going to be awesome to ride in the twisties. Today I'm just kind of doing a little tour down here through La Jolla and San Diego. Just some back roads I like. Good views, amazing houses here. Just a little fun ride around town for my first one. Tires are good, no issues there. It seems to have plenty of traction. Controls and layout are easy, so far I'm very happy with this motorcycle. I definitely don't regret purchasing it. I can't wait for you guys to see what I'm going to do with this motorcycle. It's going to be a kind of a whole project. I'll do a bunch of videos on the different things I'm doing. I'll be doing some slow speed or gymkhana type drills with this motorcycle. I'm sure I'll hit up my buddy Greg at MOTOTIPZ and do some stuff together with this thing. Watch out for those Amazon trucks. I'm sure the question will get asked if I'm going to take this motorcycle to the track, and the answer is yes. I'm not sure at what point though, but eventually it will go to a track day. Later this week I'm planning to go back to SoCal Supermoto and work on my Supermoto skills. If you guys haven't checked that place out, it's awesome. For like just over $300 you get a full day of Supermoto training. They will provide you with the gear and the motorcycle. It's so much fun. So if you haven't been yet, make sure you go check it out. If you've been before, I'm sure you'll keep going back. In conclusion, this is an awesome motorcycle. I'm super happy with it. 2021 KTM 690 SMCR Supermoto. Can't wait to do some more riding, put some videos together on the project. Hope you like this video. If you do, make sure you hit subscribe. Keep watching, and I'll catch you next time.